Let's review the answers for assignment for round 5C. Number 1 was, if Ferris chose to retire or purchase all of its long-term debt, would it buy it at a discount or a premium? This is typical in a real world. We can look up bonds and whatnot that are out there in the real world and determine what the costs are. And the report's similar to this. It may not be structured exactly like this, but it's quite similar. Okay, we would look at Ferris has one bond. It was issued with a maturity date of 2023, and its original issue was 14%. The current yield to maturity is 13.1%, so it's something less than that. Okay, it's something a little bit less than that. And what we would be, if the yield has gone down, that means that the price has gone up, right? If we paid this for it, we would assume our yield would be 14%, but we're going to pay more for it, and that's based on this. And this is just a percentage, really. It's 106.54% of this amount, or 1.0654, right, would be what it would cost us to purchase this particular bond. Okay, and you can look at it. It says how much is the discount or premium? It'd be 6.54%. How much would the discount or premium be in dollars? Well, 6.54 times that gives us 20 or 1.36 million. So what the premium is, if you added it, and if you guys did the math this way, that's fine. It would be 22 million something, a little over 22 million that it would cost you to purchase that bond back. Can a company buy back its own debt? Sure. Yeah, it can go in the marketplace and pay off its debt if it wants to. It just buys it back. Okay, just like anybody else. Okay. 2, if Ferris were to have invested $10 million in share buyback, how many shares could it have repurchased at the end of round 5 price? Holy smokes, the answer I got there is almost all its shares. So let's go take a look. Ferris stock, got to come up for stock. Its price was $5.14, right? And if we did 10 million, boy, I didn't do very good at showing my math here, right? But it should be, just 10 million divided by 5.14, and that's what we would equal then, is almost 2 million shares, so almost all of its stock that it could have bought back. Okay, there's limitations in the game that wouldn't allow you to do that. It had about 2.4, so it would have still had about 500,000 shares outstanding. But there are limitations in the game that would not allow you to do that. In the real world, there aren't any such limitations. I mean, if you really thought that as a business that your price was way, way, way below what it should be, yeah, you could go in and buy the stock back. Companies borrow money oftentimes to do that, even because they think their price is too low. 3, if Andrews would have used all its cash to pay down debt, what would its leverage ratio have been? And this one, it's easy to make it sound too hard, but your formula for leverage, and it's kind of weird. It doesn't show it on this one. When I bring it up here on the PDF, but when I bring it up the other way, it shows that our formula is simply assets over equity, assets divided by equity. Okay. So if I'm paying down all of my debt, what's going to happen? My assets are going to come down because I'm using cash, right? So my assets come down by whatever that amount is. Does my equity change? No, because my liabilities come down an equal amount. So both my assets and my liabilities come down. But do I need to know what my liabilities are with the formula? The formula is assets divided by equity. I don't. Okay, I don't care what happened to my liabilities. My equity isn't going to change, right? If my assets were 100 and my liabilities were 50, and my equity was 50, let's say I used 25 of cash to pay down liabilities, boy, then my assets would go to 75, my liabilities would go to 25, my equity would stay at 50. And all of a sudden, my leverage in that case, which would have been 100 to 50, is now 75 to 50, so it's 1.5. Okay, and so the math's really the same here, just a little different numbers. So my cash that Andrews had was 10 million, a little over 10 million. The assets that it did have was 110 million. So we're bringing it down to just about 100 million, and our equity didn't change. 81 million 700 and whatever. If I come down to the balance sheet, total equity 81,724,000. Boom, I do the math and I come up with a leverage ratio then that decreased to 1.23 versus the 1.4 that it was. So it decreased by using cash to pay down debt. That makes sense. 4, Andrew's current book value is $40.86 per share. If the company had issued or sold 100,000 shares of stock last year, what would be the new book value, assume everything else remains constant? Well, we have to look at Andrew's share price then at the end of year 5, and that is simply end of year 5, $54.59. Okay, and I said at the end of year 5 if they had issued or sold 100,000 shares. So you sell that, you raise $5.459 million. That goes directly to equity. Okay, additional paid-in capital, we might call that. Okay, and so that goes right into equity. And so in this case, we know from this problem up here, our old equity that we had was 81 million. We added 5.49, so our equity goes up. Okay, and our book value per share is simply our new equity divided by the number of shares, which have changed, right? We were at 2 million shares, but we sold 100,000 shares, so now we're at 2.1 million, and so our book value actually goes up, okay, to $41.52. Well, why is that? Well, it's because our book value was only $40.86, but we're actually selling stock at a higher price because the market's valued it at more than the book value. Okay, the market says it's worth 54, and so we sold stock at that, and that increased our book value. Now, and that kind of sounds good, right? Geez, we got a higher book value, except it's not good. Okay, it's not necessarily good, right? Because that affects things then like earnings per share. We have more shares outstanding. We have more equity, so our ROE and our earnings per share are both going to be adversely affected or made worse because of this transaction. So those are the things that we have to be careful about. This is just to get an understanding of how we reconcile that particular account. Thanks, and good luck on your next assignment.